Do you remember what it was like growing up? Not easy, right? All those changes and that feeling the world was somehow against you. Well, we are not the only ones. Let me show you who also struggles to grow up.
We are in the heart of the Mesoamerican Reef, the second largest coral reef in the world and one of the most vital marine ecosystems on Earth, a paradise for marine life.
After the 2023-2024 bleaching event that drastically changed, we went from 45% hard coral coverage to about 5% in a matter of a couple of months. Seeing that firsthand was probably one of the most devastating things that I've ever been a witness to.
Corals are fighting to survive in a rapidly warming ocean. And if that wasn't enough, even the simple act of meeting their perfect partner is becoming harder with each passing year.
If you're an animal who can't move and your only chance of successful reproduction is if all of your neighbors around you are also releasing gametes at the exact same time, if you start losing all your neighbors and you get to a point where you only have, one coral here and then several meters away another coral there, even if there's still a few corals on that reef, the likelihood of their gametes finding each other becomes exponentially lower.
Be mindful with your equipment, it doesn't get entangled here, so when you go up, you take it up with you, right?
What you end up having is not just that there's few corals on the reef, but they literally can't find each other anymore.
Refusing to accept this fate, a team of researchers from the California Academy of Sciences and the Roatán Marine Park has plunged into action.
Tonight's the night.
Determined to bring a solution to life.
And we got in the water around dusk and we started monitoring the colonies of this species to see if they were setting for coral gametes. If it looks like they are setting, which is just showing that they have the gametes and that they will release, then we net that colony with a spawning net so that when they do release gametes, we're able to collect it.
Butterfly fish are like the researchers' personal messengers, circling and signaling when a coral is ready to spawn. Even with these little helpers, it took the team 4 nights to finally witness the synchronized spawning of the grooved brain coral.
We collect the gametes and we brought it back to the lab in order to do fertilization, and we take as many different genotypes as possible, and then we put them in the new larval rearing cones in order for them to develop in the different embryonic stages up to fully developed and swimming and competent coral larvae that are capable of settling.
Life is not easy for a baby coral in an ever-changing ocean, but this team has a plan to help them survive, grow, and reach adulthood.
You saw it? Yeah.
Oh, you saw it tonight?
Yeah. Oh, cute. And it's a baby dilap. Yeah. We're gonna recruit. Yeah.
It's really energetically intensive to go from being a little swimming coral larva to having to metamorphose and start growing a calcium carbonate skeleton. Our 3 treatments are targeting at giving them more energy, either by providing them food or giving them more carbonate in the water to create that calcium carbonate skeleton.
And then another one of the techniques that we're looking at is whether or not we can select for more resilient individuals in terms of stress, specifically related to heat, because that's one of the biggest stressors that they're experiencing right now. We expose them to a heat stress and intentionally try to select for the ones that survive that heat stress, thinking that those might be the most resilient individuals and the most resilient genotypes.
To make this possible, the researchers first needed a facility where they could conduct all their experiments. So they set out to plan and build the Coral Restoration Center of Roatán.
Prior to this infrastructure, the running seawater facility, it would have been possible to collect coral spawn and fertilize, but there would not have been controlled conditions where you could try to optimize health of baby corals and get them stronger and happier and bigger so that when you put them back out on the reef, they're surviving and growing as best as possible.
One of a kind, This research center is the first land-based coral rearing facility in Honduras and Central America, with an impact on the region that will be truly invaluable.
For a really long time, Honduras has kind of stood on the sidelines for a lot of these scientific breakthroughs. And now we have not only the technical knowledge, thanks to the collaboration with our team at California Academy of Sciences, but the facilities locally. So now it's not only applying these interventions, but it's bringing in the community and letting them in on the magnificent science that is going on here, and trying to bring more people in and get interested and become aware.
What the team is doing in Roatán is rewriting the future for corals and will change the lives of those who come after us.
It's just really sad to think that future generations may not be able to see that. I do it because I want other people to witness the beauty of the underwater world. I don't want our generation to be the last generation to have had that privilege. That is what keeps me going.
No one is giving up. Not now. There is still work to do.
We all know this is an uphill battle. We all know that we're losing things faster than we can replace them. In a lot of places that have declined over the last 15 to 20 years, but I've also seen places, if they were protected, if they were managed effectively, they came back. And so I don't think that it's too late. I do think that this is all very worthwhile, and that if we're able to safeguard what we have and implement regulation and conservation techniques, that we can protect what's remaining in a way that it's able to rebuild.
We agree with Dr. Rebecca Albright. It's not too late. And if this team is not giving up, neither are we.